The signal. The ice of Europa crackled beneath Dr. Elena Santos' boots as she made her way across the frozen surface toward Research Station Omega. The Jupiter system's eternal twilight cast long shadows across the moon's scared landscape, but Elena barely noticed anymore. After 3 years stationed at humanity's furthest permanent research installation, the alien environment had become home. A notification pulsed in her neural interface, another anomaly in the quantum detection array. The third this week. She quickened her pace, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. Something was different about these readings, something that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. The station's airlock cycled, and Elena stepped into the warm interior, removing her helmet with practiced efficiency. "Tell me you're seeing this," she called out to Dr. James Chen, her colleague and the station's quantum mechanics expert. James didn't look up from his holographic display, his fingers dancing through the air as he manipulated complex equations. "If you mean the phi-wave oscillations in the quantum foam, then yes, they're getting stronger." Elena moved to her own station, pulling up the latest data streams. The Quantum Detection Array, or QDA, had been her life's work, a way to detect intelligence signatures in the very fabric of space-time itself. Most had called it impossible, a waste of resources, but she had persisted, convinced that advanced civilizations would leave traces in the quantum realm. "These patterns," she murmured, "they're not random noise. Look at the symmetry, the repetition." She highlighted a sequence that pulsed with an almost musical rhythm. "This is language, James. Someone left a message written in quantum fluctuations." James finally looked up, his expression skeptical but intrigued. "If you're right, this message has been here since." He ran a quick calculation. "Since before Earth formed. The quantum decay rate suggests these fluctuations are billions of years old." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's frigid environment. Someone wanted to be heard. Someone wanted to warn us. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity. Elena and James worked tirelessly, refining their detection algorithms, cleaning up the signal, trying to extract meaning from the ancient quantum whispers. Other station personnel drifted in and out of the lab, bringing food and coffee, watching with growing excitement as patterns began to emerge. It was Elena who made the breakthrough. At hour 13, she had been running the signal through a new translation matrix, one based on universal mathematical constants, when her screen suddenly filled with clear geometric shapes. "James," she called out, her voice barely a whisper. "James, look at this." The shapes were assembling themselves into diagrams, into pictures that told a story of a galaxy teeming with life, of civilizations rising and falling, of something moving between the stars, something that hunted technology itself. "They're called the Harvesters," Elena explained to the hastily assembled station crew. "At least, that's the closest translation. They're not organic life as we understand it. They're collectors. They seek out civilizations that reach a certain level of technological advancement, and they consume them. Their technology, their knowledge, everything they've built." Commander Sarah Chen, the station's military liaison, leaned forward. "How many civilizations?" Elena swallowed hard. "According to this message, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The beings who left this warning. They called themselves the Archivists. They spent millions of years studying the Harvesters' patterns. They knew they would eventually be found, so they left these quantum messages scattered throughout promising solar systems, hoping to give younger civilizations a chance they never had." "A chance at what?" James asked. "If these Harvesters are as powerful as the message suggests, how could we possibly resist them?" Elena's expression shifted from fear to determination. "The Archivists didn't just leave us a warning. They left us a blueprint. Not for fighting the Harvesters, that's impossible, but for something even more ambitious." She pulled up the final sequence of diagrams. "They left us instructions for how to hide an entire civilization in plain sight." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had just learned it wasn't alone in the universe, but that knowledge came with a terrible choice: adapt in ways no human society ever had before, or face extinction at the hands of cosmic predators that had already devoured thousands of civilizations. Commander Chen was the first to speak. "How long do we have?" Elena studied the quantum decay patterns one more time, based on the harvester's last known position and typical movement patterns. "Maybe 5 years. Maybe less." "Then we better get started," Chen said, reaching for her quantum communicator. "Because we're about to propose something that will change human civilization forever." As Elena watched the commander begin composing her message to Earth Command, she felt a strange mix of terror and hope. Humanity had always wondered if it was alone in the universe. Now they knew the truth. They weren't alone. But maybe, just maybe, they could be the first to survive what was coming. The signal had been found. The warning had been received. And now, the greatest transformation in human history was about to begin. The archive. The descent into Europa's deep ice took 18 hours. Elena watched through the submersible's reinforced viewport as layers of ancient ice slid past, illuminated by the vessel's external lights. Each passing meter brought them closer to what the quantum signal had promised: an archive of knowledge left behind by a civilization that had faced extinction billions of years ago. Approaching the thermal vent system, Captain Maria Rodriguez announced from the pilot station. Thermal readings matched the coordinates exactly. The submersible's lights revealed a network of massive tubes carved into the ice, their surfaces too smooth and regular to be natural formations. Elena exchanged glances with James Chen, who had insisted on joining the expedition despite his usual preference for staying in the lab. The quantum signal had led them here, to this precise location beneath Europa's frozen surface. Whatever the archivists had left behind, they had wanted it to be found. Multiple structures detected, Lieutenant Sarah Wong reported from the sensor station. They appear to be integrated directly into the ice matrix. Bioorganic composition. She paused, double-checking her readings. They're active, maintaining their own thermal envelope. Elena felt her heart rate spike. After billions of years. "That's the thing about bioorganic technology," James said, his voice filled with wonder. "It doesn't just maintain itself, it evolves, adapts." These structures have probably gone through thousands of iterations since they were first created. The submersible's lights illuminated a vast chamber carved into the ice. Organic-looking structures lined the walls, pulsing with faint bioluminescence. At the chamber's center stood what could only be described as a forest of crystalline pillars, each one swirling with patterns of light that seemed to respond to their presence. "This is it," Elena breathed. "The archive." The next few hours were a blur of activity as they established a base camp within the chamber. The archive's bioorganic systems had already begun adjusting the local environment, making it more hospitable for human presence. It was as if the entire complex was awakening from a long hibernation. Elena approached one of the crystalline pillars, her hand hovering over its surface. According to the quantum signal's instructions, the archive was designed to interface directly with organic neural patterns. All she had to do was... "Elena, wait," James called out, but she had already placed her palm against the crystal. The world exploded into information. Images, concepts, and emotions flooded her consciousness. She saw civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. She witnessed the first appearance of the harvesters, watched as they systematically stripped world after world of all technology, leaving behind only ruins and scattered survivors. But more importantly, she saw how the archivists had fought back, not with weapons or shields, but with transformation. They had discovered a fundamental truth: the harvesters could only detect and consume certain types of technology. Anything based on traditional physics, electronics, quantum computing, fusion power was visible to them. But there was another path. Bioorganic systems. Elena gasped as the interface finally released her. "They're showing us how to rebuild our entire civilization using biological principles. Living technology that can hide in plain sight." James steadied her as she stumbled back from the pillar. Are you saying we need to abandon all our current technology? Not abandon, Elena corrected, her mind still processing the vast amount of information she'd received. Transform. The archive contains complete blueprints for converting existing systems into bioorganic equivalents. Ships that grow instead of being built. Computers that think like living brains. Power systems that harvest energy the way plants do. Captain Rodriguez frowned. That's impossible. The infrastructure requirements alone. We don't have a choice, Elena interrupted. The harvesters are coming, but they've never encountered a civilization that completely transformed itself before they arrived. The archivists believed it was possible. They just ran out of time to implement it themselves. She turned to face the team, her expression intense. This is why they left the archive here, protected and waiting. They couldn't save themselves, but they could give future civilizations a chance. We can be the first to succeed where others failed. Lieutenant Wong was already analyzing preliminary scans of the archive's structures. These bioorganic systems, they're more advanced than anything we've ever conceived, but the basic principles are sound. We could adapt this knowledge to work with Earth's biosphere. How long would a full conversion take? Captain Rodriguez asked. Elena consulted the knowledge she'd received from the archive. With a coordinated global effort, 3 years, maybe 4. We'd have to work in stages, keeping our conventional technology running while we grow the replacements. They're going to think we're crazy, James said quietly, when we tell them we need to turn all of human civilization into a living organism. Then we'll show them this, Elena replied, activating her neural interface. The archive responded, projecting a holographic display that filled the chamber. It showed the harvesters in action. Massive entities of pure energy and exotic matter, systematically devouring the technology of an advanced civilization while ignoring anything biological. We can't fight them, she continued. We can't run from them. But we can become something they've never encountered before, something they might not even recognize as intelligent life. Captain Rodriguez studied the projection for a long moment before reaching for her quantum communicator. I'll contact Earth Command. But Dr. Santos, are you absolutely certain about this? We're talking about changing the fundamental nature of human civilization. Elena looked around the chamber, at the living technology that had waited patiently for billions of years to fulfill its purpose. Captain, we're about to face the same choice the archivists faced. We can try to fight and die like thousands of civilizations before us, or we can do something unprecedented. We can evolve. As the captain began composing her message, Elena turned back to the archive's crystalline pillars. They pulsed with patterns of light, as if eager to share their knowledge. Humanity had just been handed the keys to its own salvation, if they were brave enough to use them. The question was, could an entire civilization learn to become something entirely new before it was too late? The Great Silence. 3 years after the discovery of the archive, Elena stood in what had once been New York's Central Park. The transformation was breathtaking. Where there had once been carefully maintained grass and trees, now a vast network of bioluminescent plants pulsed with energy, powering much of the surrounding city. The traditional steel and glass skyscrapers had been engulfed by living structures that constantly adapted to their inhabitants' needs. The latest conversion numbers are in, James said, approaching from behind. Like everyone else, he now wore clothing made from responsive biofabric that regulated temperature and could instantly transform into environmental protection. We're at 87% globally. The last holdouts are mostly in the orbital habitats. Elena nodded, watching as a transport vessel, more like a giant flying manta ray than a traditional aircraft, glided silently overhead. And the quantum signature readings, down to less than 5% of what they were before Project Evolution began. To any outside observer, Earth looks like it's going through a pre-industrial renaissance. The few electromagnetic emissions we still produce are indistinguishable from natural phenomena. It hadn't been easy. Convincing the world's governments to abandon traditional technology in favor of bioorganic systems had required months of demonstrations and debates. But once the first successful conversions had been completed, once people saw the possibilities, the transformation had taken on a life of its own. Elena's neural interface, now a living symbiote rather than an electronic implant, pulsed with an incoming priority message. "Dr. Santos." Commander Chen's voice echoed in her mind. "We need you at Central Command immediately. Long-range biosensors have detected something approaching the solar system." The underground command center had been one of the first facilities to undergo complete bioorganic conversion. Living walls pulsed with information, while operators interfaced directly with the facility's neural network through their symbiotes. Elena found Commander Chen, now Director of Earth Defense, studying a three-dimensional display of the solar system. "Show her," Chen ordered, and the display zoomed in on a point of disturbance at the system's edge. Elena felt her breath catch. The disturbance was exactly as the archive had described. A ripple in space-time itself, moving with purpose. A harvester scout. First direct confirmation of their approach, Chen confirmed. "Multiple biosensor arrays have verified the signature. They're earlier than we predicted." "How long?" "At current velocity, they'll reach Earth orbit in approximately 72 hours. The question is, are we ready?" Elena studied the readouts from Earth's new defensive systems. The planet was now surrounded by a living shield of engineered organisms that could detect and respond to threats while appearing completely natural. Every city had been transformed into a self-sustaining ecosystem that produced no technological signatures. Even their space presence had been completely reconceived. Satellites replaced by engineered creatures that fulfilled the same functions while appearing to be nothing more than space-dwelling life forms. "We're as ready as we can be," Elena replied. "Everything depends on whether they believe our deception." The next 3 days were tense as they tracked the scouts' approach. Former electronic communication systems had been replaced by quantum-entangled biological relays that left no trace in normal space. Through these secure channels, Elena coordinated with transformation teams worldwide, ensuring that every remaining piece of traditional technology was either converted or completely powered down. When the scout finally entered Earth orbit, the planet that greeted it bore little resemblance to the technological civilization it had been just 3 years earlier. Cities still bustled with activity, but now they appeared to be simple collections of organic structures. Transportation continued, but through means that mimicked natural biological processes. Even the lights of human habitation had been replaced by bioluminescence that could have evolved naturally. Elena watched through bioengineered sensing organs as the scout deployed its analysis probes. The archive had prepared them for this moment, had shown them exactly what the harvesters would look for. Every piece of their new civilization had been designed specifically to avoid those detection parameters. "Probe is scanning the northern hemisphere," James reported from his interface pod. "Biosensors indicate it's using standard harvester detection protocols." "Wait." He paused, tension evident in his voice. "It's changing its scan pattern. They're looking deeper." Elena felt her heart rate increase. This was the moment of truth. If they'd missed anything, if any trace of their true technological level remained visible. "Second probe deploying over the southern hemisphere," Chen announced. "They're conducting a full spectrum analysis." For 6 tense hours, the Harvester Scout thoroughly examined Earth and its surrounding space. Elena and her team watched through their biological sensors as probe after probe swept the planet, searching for any sign of harvestable technology. Finally, the Scout began to withdraw its probes. Its energy signature shifted, preparing for departure. "They're leaving," James whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "The examination is complete." Elena studied the data from their biosensors. The Scout's behavior matched exactly what the archive had shown them. The pattern of a harvester vessel determining that a planet hosted only primitive life, not worth harvesting. As the Scout disappeared back into deep space, Elena felt tears in her eyes. "We did it," she breathed. We actually did it. We're the first civilization to hide successfully from the harvesters. Not just hide, Chen corrected. We've evolved beyond their ability to harm us. Everything we've built, everything we've become, it's not just camouflage. We've created an entirely new form of civilization. Elena watched as the living city around them continued its constant, subtle adaptations. Humanity had done more than just survive. They had transformed themselves into something unprecedented. A technological civilization that had learned to live in harmony with biological processes, advancing in ways the harvesters couldn't comprehend. They'll be back, she said quietly. The archive showed us their patterns. They'll send larger scouting parties, more detailed examinations. And we'll be ready, Chen replied. Because we're not done evolving. The deception. 6 months after the first scout's departure, Earth had become even more extraordinary. The bioorganic transformation had taken on a life of its own, with each generation of living technology evolving and improving upon itself. Cities now grew and changed like coral reefs, while transportation networks operated like vast circulatory systems. Elena stood in the observation chamber of the new Deep Space Monitoring Center, a massive organic structure that had grown itself inside a mountain. Through its specialized sensing organs, she could observe the approaching harvester fleet. 3 capital ships this time, each one large enough to envelope Earth's moon. They're not convinced, James said, joining her at the observation interface. That first scout must have detected something that didn't quite fit their parameters. Or maybe this is just their standard follow-up protocol. Elena replied, though she shared his concern. The archive had warned them that the harvesters were thorough, methodical. They had to be, after hunting technological civilizations for millions of years. The neural network chimed with an incoming message. Dr. Santos. Director Chen's voice echoed in Elena's mind. The Council is convening. We need your analysis of the new sensor data. The Council chamber had once been the United Nations building. Now it was a living organism itself, its walls lined with neural tissue that allowed instant communication between all participants. Representatives from Earth's major regions appeared as bioprojected holograms, their images carried by engineered light-producing organisms. The harvester fleet will reach Earth orbit in approximately 48 hours. Chen began without preamble. Their energy signatures are orders of magnitude larger than the Scouts. We have to assume their scanning capabilities are similarly enhanced. Elena stepped forward, interfacing with the chamber's neural network to project the latest data. Our biosensor arrays have detected new scanning frequencies in their approach pattern. They're looking for specific signs this time, remnants of industrial activity, traces of technological development that we might have tried to hide. Can our camouflage hold up to that level of scrutiny? The question came from Dr. Sarah Patel, head of the Global Transformation Initiative. Elena manipulated the display, showing the latest adaptations in their bioorganic systems. We've been preparing for this. Every piece of our civilization is now truly alive, not just mimicking biological processes, but actually evolving and adapting. Even our quantum communication network has been fully integrated into the planet's natural biological fields. What about the orbital habitats? James asked. They were the last to undergo transformation. Fully converted now, Dr. Petal replied. The space stations have become living creatures in their own right, complete with organic propulsion and life support systems. To any observer, they'll appear to be nothing more than large space-dwelling organisms. The chamber fell silent as a new alert pulsed through the neural network. The harvester fleet had accelerated, cutting their arrival time in half. 24 hours, Chen announced grimly. We need to be absolutely certain. Dr. Santos, what's your assessment? Will our deception hold? Elena studied the data one more time, comparing it to everything they'd learned from the archive. The transformation is complete. But, she hesitated, there's something we haven't tried yet. Something the archive suggested but couldn't confirm would work. She interfaced with the chamber systems, bringing up designs that had been evolving in her mind for months. We've been focused on hiding our technology, making it appear biological. But what if we could take it a step further? What if we could make Earth itself appear to be a single, unified organism? The chamber erupted in surprised discussions. "You're talking about linking all our bioorganic systems together?" James asked. "Creating some kind of planetary neural network?" "We're halfway there already," Alina explained. "Our cities, our transportation systems, our orbital habitats, they're all already connected through the quantum communication network. If we could expand that connection, make it more comprehensive, we'd appear to be a primitive but unified biosphere," Dr. Patel finished, excitement growing in her voice. "Not just a planet with various forms of life, but a single planet-spanning entity. The Harvesters have never encountered anything like that before." "Can it be done in time?" Chen asked. Elena nodded. "The frameworks are already in place. We just need to strengthen the connections, let the systems synchronize naturally." She paused. "But there's a risk. Once we start the unification process, we won't be able to fully predict how our bioorganic systems will evolve. We'll be creating something entirely new." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had already transformed their civilization beyond recognition. Now they were considering taking a step that would fundamentally change the nature of human society itself. "Put it to a vote," Chen ordered, and the neural network hummed as council members registered their decisions. Moments later, the results appeared in everyone's neural interfaces. The vote was unanimous. "Begin the unification process," Chen commanded, "and pray we're ready when they arrive." As Alina rushed to implement the protocols, she couldn't help but marvel at how far humanity had come. They had not only embraced change, they had chosen to become something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. The Harvesters were coming to find a primitive world. Instead, they would encounter something that even the archivists hadn't imagined possible. An entire planet that had evolved into a single living entity, with humanity as its consciousness. The greatest deception in human history was about to face its ultimate test. The revelation. The unification process had transformed Earth beyond anything Alina had imagined possible. As the Harvester fleet entered orbit, they found a planet that pulsed with synchronized bioluminescence, its entire biosphere operating in perfect harmony. Cities breathed like living organisms, transportation networks flowed like blood vessels, and the orbital habitats moved with the grace of spaceborne creatures. Through her neural interface, Alina could feel the planetary consciousness taking shape. Billions of human minds linked together through the bioorganic network, each maintaining their individuality while contributing to something greater. The quantum communication system had evolved into a true planetary nervous system, allowing every part of Earth's new metabolism to respond as one. Harvester vessels deploying scanning arrays. James reported from his interface pod. "Energy signatures are off the charts. They're using everything they have." Elena watched through the planet's unified sensing organs as hundreds of probe devices descended through the atmosphere. Unlike the previous Scout's cursory examination, this was a full diagnostic sweep. The Harvesters were determined to understand exactly what they were looking at. "They're targeting the orbital habitats first," Director Chen announced. "Preparing response protocols." The massive space stations, now looking more like bioluminescent whales than artificial structures, responded to the probe's approach. Their organic surfaces rippled, producing patterns of light and chemical signatures that mimicked natural defensive behaviors. To the Harvester sensors, they would appear to be nothing more than large space-dwelling life forms protecting their territory. "Probes entering the atmosphere," James called out. "They're focusing on the major population centers." Alina felt humanity's collective nervousness through the neural network, but also their determination. Every person on Earth was now part of their grand deception, their minds linked together in a way that made coordinated responses instinctive. The probes swept through New York, Tokyo, London, cities that now appeared to be nothing more than massive coral-like growths. Human activities continued, but now they resembled the movements of cells within a larger organism. Transportation flowed like nutrients through a living system. energy transferred through bioluminescent pathways that could have evolved naturally over millions of years. They're changing their scan patterns, Elena observed, studying the data through the planetary sensing network, looking for specific technological signatures. Wait. She paused, noticing something unexpected. They're trying to communicate. A signal burst from the lead harvester vessel, targeting Earth's upper atmosphere. The pattern was complex, a combination of electromagnetic waves and quantum fluctuations designed to trigger responses from any hidden technological systems. This is it, Elena realized. The real test. They're not just looking for technology. They're trying to provoke a reaction that only a technological civilization would understand. Through the neural network, she felt the council members' tension. Their instinct was to respond, to show the harvesters that humanity was more advanced than they appeared. But that was exactly what the signal was designed to provoke. Instead, Earth responded as a single living entity. The atmosphere rippled with bioluminescent patterns. The oceans produced complex chemical signatures. Even the planet's magnetic field fluctuated in ways that seemed purely organic. Every response was coordinated through the planetary neural network, but appeared to be nothing more than the... Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the probes began to withdraw. "They're falling back to the fleet," James announced, his voice tight with anticipation. Energy signatures shifting. They're preparing to leave. Elena watched through the planetary sensors as the massive harvester vessels began to move away from Earth orbit. Their departure patterns matched exactly what the archive had shown them, the behavior of harvesters abandoning an unproductive search. As the fleet disappeared into deep space, a wave of jubilation swept through the planetary neural network. Humanity had not just hidden from the greatest predator in the galaxy, they had evolved beyond its ability to comprehend them. "We did it," Elena whispered, feeling the joy and relief of billions flowing through the neural network. "We really did it." "No," Director Chen corrected, a note of wonder in her voice. "We did more than just fool them. Look at what we've become." Elena expanded her awareness through the planetary network, truly appreciating for the first time what humanity had achieved. They had taken the archivist's bioorganic technology and evolved it into something unprecedented, a civilization that was both highly advanced and completely natural, where technology and biology were no longer separate concepts. "The archivists wanted to save us from the harvesters," she said, watching the living city pulse with energy around them. "But they gave us something far more valuable. They showed us a new way to grow, to advance, to evolve. We're not just hiding anymore. We're becoming something entirely new." Through the planetary neural network, she could feel humanity's growing excitement as they realized the truth. The transformation they had undergone to survive had opened up possibilities they had never imagined. They had learned to build with life itself, to grow their civilization organically, to advance in ways that worked with nature rather than against it. The harvesters would return eventually. They always did, but they would never find what they were looking for. Because humanity had discovered a fundamental truth. True advancement didn't mean building bigger machines or more powerful computers. It meant evolving, adapting, becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. Earth pulsed with bioluminescence in the darkness of space, its light a beacon of life rather than technology. Humanity had not just survived, they had transcended. And in doing so, they had written a new chapter in the story of intelligent life in the galaxy. The stars held their breath no longer. Instead, they watched in wonder as a new kind of civilization took its first steps into the future.